Thinking Basketball Podcast. My name is Ben. Welcome to the 2026 NBA season, or as they call it in Canada, the 2025-2026. That's the full name, Cody. NBA season. We are back. Cody Hodak, ladies and gentlemen, is here for yet another year. I can't believe this is our 8th year of the Thinking Basketball Podcast. You're giggling already. I don't know why. It's our 8th year of the Thinking Basketball Podcast. This has got to be like our 5th or 6th NBA preview show for a season. And if you're new to this, Cody's definitely going to bring up the gym at some point today. Who in the offseason has done the most working out? We're going to probably spend 97% of the time talking about the West, and then acknowledge that the Eastern Conference is actually sneaky interesting, but the Eastern Conference is a thing. And we will, without a doubt, bring up a stat that is way too detailed and hardcore at some point, even for our own good. But that's what preseason basketball is for, Cody, right? It's for finding minuscule statistical things that happen in a 4-game sample.
Wait, so you have a stat from the preseason that you're going to bring in. It's not like a stat from last season that you're using to inform your preview stuff. That's what you mean?
Can I be honest? It is.
Yeah.
It is not a preseason stat, and now I feel like I've let you and the audience down, because in the past I have used preseason data to much avail. But I think we should. How are you feeling? Are you ready to go?
I'm really excited. I always find this pod to be very daunting because there's so many teams. And I know, like, at one point we're going to talk about a team, and someone from the Hawks is just going to be so mad we didn't bring up the 8th guy. They're going to be like, how dare you forget the development of so-and-so during the offseason? Like, I'm sorry. I just didn't think they would be that relevant.
I probably should have also added in my preamble as a reminder to new listeners that Cody and I don't know who plays for which team yet. We try to get it all sorted out during the preseason, but I will definitely have a depth chart up in the background to double check myself when it comes to who he play for, because it takes me a few games to remember all of them. Once the season's over, it's all in the past. Now I have to figure out who is going to play where. So, Cody, what would you like to start this daunting podcast with? I'll throw it to you.
It's really tough. So 2 years ago we did the West. Last year we started with the East. I don't know if we want to start with the West, or here's the thing. You kind of alluded to it actually a second ago. The East is certainly much weaker than the West, but they are actually kind of interesting because the West, there's a lot of running it back, except for a couple of teams that have made there's a couple of dynamic changes, I think, but OKC is still at the very top. So I don't really know. Like, do you want to start with the East and just see how excited we can get about them?
I think I know how to solve this problem.
Okay.
Who is the player or team that you're most interested in? Like, who is the critical... Like, you close your eyes and you think of the start of the season, you go, oh my God, I want to see what happens here, or this is the thing that's going to determine the shape of the season.
There's two teams.
2 teams.
They're in 2 different conferences. So
who's number one? Pick a one.
I think the Spurs are number one.
The Spurs are number one for me too.
Yeah. Ooh,
yeah.
Why are they number one for you?
Well, they have Victor Wembanyama, who I have to say, because we haven't talked about him in a long time. It's been a long, hey, Wemby, we're back. For off the court reasons, for Vic's life, for his personal reasons, I am scared that he keeps growing. It's crazy. If you're new to, he's still growing. The Spurs have updated his height. They've listed him officially as 7'5". He's taller than that. Bojan Marjanovic said he can't believe how tall he is. He might be 7'6" or 7'7". He plays with Luke Cornett. We'll talk about it in a second. The Spurs have some Twin Towers lineups, which I absolutely love, where Luke Cornett is 7'2", playing next to Wemby. I don't remember his exact real life measurement at the combine. Cornette, he's 7'1.5", 7'1". He's really tall is the point. And Wemby just literally towers over him. He might be 7'7". Now, that aside, basketball wise, bringing our focus back to like the actual court for this season and really fun, optimistic things, he still moves the same way. It's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. He's lost almost no agility. I think if you go way back to when he was a rookie or in Paris, some of the hip swiveling might have been a little quicker way back when he was only 7'3". Apparently that was short. Wemby was 7'3", but the strength, the cardiovascular conditioning, the game, the quickness, the movement, the agility, the range. This is a player who I think it's always exciting when you have someone new enter the MVP conversation, and that is absolutely what we're looking for with Victor Wembanyama. And the Spurs have a little bit more talent around him this year, and so when you get that paired with the new young team that could be in the playoffs and make some noise. That to me is probably the most exciting story in the early part of the season.
We have we have an early gym corner already, because on the NBA site, there's a story about some of Victor Wembanyama's offseason conditioning, and the drill that they describe here, it says the drill is simple.
Yeah.
And the simplicity here is just terrifying. It says he defends a one-on-one sequence against every player in the gym without a breather. Once he's taken everyone on, he sprints down to the other end of the court and goes right back into it. So I think the idea is he just has like an endless repetition of one-on-one defensive sequences against the entire team, right? And so when you have something like that, like you say, you're keeping yourself limber. We talked a ton ad nauseum, Ben, about the importance of your cardiovascular health during the top 25 series that we just ended. And Victor Wembanyama being able to keep that up at that height while he's still growing, while he's still incredibly limber. I mean, I don't necessarily even care about some of the other skills he may or may not be bringing in. It seems like he's shooting the three ball a little bit less than he was at the end of the regular season, at least during the preseason. But if he comes in that kind of shape and he's ready to roll for a significant part of the season, and of course the blood clot injury, that's not something you can necessarily like prepare for. We're in for like a really rude awakening for how great this dude can be.
We already saw it in the preseason. I can't remember if it was the first game or the second game. I'm pretty sure they played Indiana 13 times in the preseason. But in one of those games early on, Wemby had this sequence where he goes to he pops out to the perimeter as he does in the offense, goes to crash the glass. Pacers bust out in transition. He cuts tail right down the court, full sprint to get back on defense. They get the ball, full sprint goes the other way. He may have done another full sprint, and it just starts to stand out when you're like, oh, his man is tired already, because it's not normal to just sprint like cheetahs, Cody. You know the cheetah, right? The cheetah is the fastest land animal. You didn't think we were going here today. The cheetah can get up to like 70 plus miles an hour, but what a lot of people don't realize is only for a couple seconds.
Yep.
It's a burst. Literally, the cheetah the body is not built to do it for longer than that. And now we're seeing a cheetah on the court in Wemby, and he's like, what if I just sprint full? It's the old adage in track, like you can't sprint all out for 400 meters. And Wemby's like, I spent all summer with the Shaolin monks so I could sprint 400 meters. That's what we're potentially dealing with on the cardiovascular side. The basketball side, he looks great. The passing, if the shot continues to come on. So, yeah, I think that's very exciting. And I think we should just stop beating around the bush, or else it's going to be a 3-hour podcast. I think the Spurs can make the play-in. Mm-hmm. I think the Spurs can make the playoffs, top 6. And I honestly think with some of the stuff we're talking about, they could battle for the old home court advantage. I think that's what we're dealing with here.
Ooh, in a crowded West, you're feeling like, do you feel confident about that? Or you're like, if it happened, I wouldn't be shocked?
Somewhere in between those two places for me, probably.
Okay.
I think that it's not shocking, but I wouldn't say it's like a long shot. I have like minor confidence, middling confidence that is an outcome for them that's reasonable. Yeah.
A little rain that I want to throw on this little parade for a second. The passing is great. Yes, he's an audacious passer. He loves trying stuff out. Some of the turnovers are still pretty rocky.
This is his third preseason, and I've watched them all, and the man will experiment in the preseason. I'm hoping those go away in the regular season. Yeah.
He will experiment in the season too. Like, I'm expecting some pretty rocky turnovers from my guy when we start. But I do think the most important question about the Spurs, because we had like a 4 or 5 game sample last year. How do he and Fox mesh? And I think that this is a really important question for a couple of reasons. Number one, obviously, there's the immediacy of how good can they be? And you're really capped out if your two best players aren't necessarily meshing as well as you'd like. I know we've talked about some concerns that maybe they might not have a skill set that's perfect to synergize with each other, but I can definitely see a world where that is the case, that they do really well. But then a couple of their young guards next to him, Castle and Harper, like, they got to start making some decisions. Like, are they going to end up keeping 3 hyper athletic guards, none of whom are necessarily great shooters? Like, I don't know. Like, there are some downstream decisions that have to be made depending on what happens with Fox and Wembanyama. And I think that's going to be something that I watch very closely, and how that 3 guard rotation ends up being, because Harper can play, Castle can play, right? And Fox is obviously going to be the guy getting the minutes. So that to me is the most fascinating part about the Spurs.
Well, Fox is already injured right now. I mean, I might not be for more than a couple games or whatever, but I think depth is something that we talked about last year as one of the key sort of three pillars for team building in the NBA today in this modern NBA landscape in 2025 and 2026. What's your top end talent? Is it really strong? Is it pretty good? The Pacers maybe last year had pretty good top end talent, but when your fit is good, which is the second pillar, and when your depth is good, which is the third pillar, and I would consider coaching and how that all fits together in there to be a big part of that puzzle as well. That is something that I think is valuable and almost necessary, probably, Cody.
Mhm.
So I think long term, I agree with everything you just said. For this year, just focusing on the 2026 season, it's like maybe it's a pretty good deal that Dylan Harper's a rookie and he might not have to start, but also he might get plenty of opportunity, but also Stephon Castle's there, but also when Fox is healthy. So I feel like they've insured themselves if the fit, because I don't know if the fit is going to be great with Fox or Fox is going to come out and necessarily have a really synergistic explosion with Wembanyama this season. So yeah, I like the fact that they have a lot of good players in the backcourt. I like the fact that Devin Vassell is a year older and can shoot, and they're going to play this quirky lineup probably sometimes with Luke Cornett and get more mileage that way, because Luke Cornett gave the Celtics solid minutes last year, and he looks like he's going to give the Spurs solid minutes as well. So
the thing is, you're right. They do have some depth, but when I do look across the roster, I'm not sure how. I don't even know if this is like how many 16 game depth they have, right? Like how many of these guys are going to be able to run some high minutes in a playoff series? Like you see a lot of guys there that I'm like, yeah, you could run 20 minutes in a regular season, eat up some minutes, do some good things out there. But once you get to the playoffs, I'm like, man, you can be schemed this way. I don't know if I trust you in this situation, et cetera, et cetera. So in my mind, they're not necessarily built right now for a solid playoff run. But I do think that they will be a very dangerous regular season team. Obviously, if Fox stay healthy throughout the whole thing.
I like that you subconsciously are now prognosticating that home court advantage in the first round and whether they can make a deep run in the playoffs. I sort of incepted you there, I think. Is there okay, I was going to ask you if there's a second team in the West that really tickles your fancy, but I think an equally relevant question, since we just mentioned, where are the Spurs in this crowded West, is who's the team doing the crowding for you? Is there another team? Do you have a clear tier, a clear winner at the top of the conference, or do you just have a bunch of teams that you think are going to make it really difficult for a team like San Antonio to finish 4, 5, 6, 7?
Well, let's say I wrote down my tiers somewhere, and let me tell you. Oh, I guess
you've lost it.
I did it for the East, apparently. I didn't do it for the West. Well, if we're just talking in general, I think we can just take out our Sharpies and write OKC as a team that just like takes away one of the top 3 home court spots, right?
I would agree with that. Agree with that. An interesting question is if Shea had an injury that was longer than like 10 games or something, what would that do to their chances of home court or something, or not home court, sorry, the 1 seed winning the conference in the regular season? I think that's a viable question that we could throw out there, right? But otherwise, I think OKC is going to be probably in the 1, maybe the 2. I actually think there's another team that has a really good shot of winning the West regular season this year.
Is it Denver?
It is the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah.
The Denver Nuggets. So maybe we should go there, because right after the Spurs as a top story, another sort of emerging story for me is, whoa, the Nuggets look really good. They all of a sudden have depth. We've talked about them not having a backup center. They have a backup center. They have a bench. The bench units have really struggled in the past. Heck, in this 5-year run by Nikola Jokic, where he's won multiple MVPs and been incredible, and the championship in 2023, there have been long periods of time where that roster's been really thin. Forget the bench, right? He's just played with guards that are usually backup guards or fringe rotation players, or they haven't had a ton of depth in the front court with Michael Porter Jr. being injured. Aaron Gordon's been great, but after him, it's like maybe we're missing. Jamal Murray's been injured. And now you look at this team coming into this season and where they are, and I'm like, man, they look like a great college squad that can go like 12 deep or something. They're all running, sprinting all over the court and playing defense. David Adelman's got this zone defense that he is expanding on from the playoffs when we saw it last year against Oklahoma City. That thing is fascinating. We'll probably talk about that during the year. So Cam Johnson, the trade, some of the moves in the offseason to bring in Bruce Brown and other players. I'm really excited about Denver. And historically, Jokic in the regular season is just a wins machine. and he's someone who doesn't miss a lot of time. And the question becomes, when he goes to the bench, if this is a team that is a above average defense in the regular season, not just, hey, it's 2023 and we got our defense together at the end of the year in the playoffs, like the entire year, they're a good defensive team. And then you consider they're winning the minutes or being competitive in the minutes when Jokic is on the bench. I think we can see a lot of wins from Denver as well.
There were a few moves. You referenced a couple of them, like Jonas Valanciunas is there, Bruce Brown is there, Cam Johnson is there. What do you think is the most significant move for them going into this season? Which one of those do you think is going to be the most impactful?
For regular season or for playoffs?
Ooh, do you have a different answer for both?
Well, I think that Valanciunas thing is less important for playoffs.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm not sure that would be my answer for regular season, but it's a really interesting wrinkle. But it's also just the depth, getting multiple pieces. And then in addition to getting multiple pieces, Cody, Bruce Brown is back, Cam Johnson, Valanciunas. But then you say Peyton Watson, he's a young player trying to take a step forward. Christian Brown just got the contract extension. He's a young player trying to expand a little bit in his game. And every one of these players that comes back from the offseason and moves up their aging curve and adds a little bit, I'm a little bit better as a shooter, right? I'm a little bit more dangerous on closeouts. I'm a little bit more comfortable handling the ball and making the extra pass. That just sort of lubricates the entire system of an already really dangerous offense. And Jamal Murray. And so when I watched Denver, they look like a team that once they lost to Oklahoma City last year, just went in the lab and were like, we're all going to get better. Here we come. Now, of course, the problem is Oklahoma City has players like that as well because they're all young. But Jamal Murray, he looked engaged and motivated and active defensively and on offense. And I think if they're healthy across the board, they're going to be that's a big story, right? Because they won a championship 3 years ago. They lost to the defending champs last year in a sort of 7-game bruising battle. And historically, we see these rivalries develop over multiple years where you keep running into these teams in the playoffs. And I think we could be on track for that. That would be an amazing story for me.
I don't know if I'm overrating it too much, but I know when the Bruce Brown signing happened, my Denver excitement went through the roof. I just think that this guy in the championship run was so important. I think back to when Sean Marion leaves the Phoenix Suns, right? And then he becomes a journeyman. He goes to Miami. He's in Toronto for a little bit. And, he's obviously on the championship run in 2011 for the Mavericks, but he never reclaims the matrix aspect of who he is. And I felt the same way about Bruce Brown. He left Denver and I'm like, that's just the perfect situation for you. And nowhere else is going to be able to squeeze all of the lemon out of everything you bring to the table. And it's almost like a storybook now that he's returned. His jackknife abilities on both offense and defense, I think, are so significant. Maybe we won't see it as much of the regular season. Obviously, we'll see some of the weirdness that he's able to bring to the court. But I think when we get to the playoffs, Bruce Brown is going to be the guy that the nerds are getting really excited about throughout the entire season. Obviously, you can be excited about Peyton Swatson out there, right? But to me, Bruce Brown is the guy that is the key to Denver's success.
Yeah, Peyton Swatson is very exciting to look at. And Bruce Brown, do you know how old he is?
He's got to be late. He's 27 or something like that.
Oh, you're pretty good. I feel like he's been around forever. And I feel like because that championship was 3 years ago and he kind of felt like a veteran then, I was like, Brucey B must be getting into his 30s or something like that. Bruce Brown's only 29 years old. So I think to your point, great fit, perfect situation, ripe for another great run and potential sort of deep season for them in the West. And I think the regular season is there for the taking as well if they can all stay healthy. Cody, is there another team in the West that you think could challenge one of those two guys, those two clubs, for supremacy in the regular season, could win the number 1 seed in the regular season?
You know who I'm really intrigued by, Ben? I'm really intrigued by this team.
Are they big?
They're old.
They're old.
This team is very old.
Is it the Golden State Warriors?
No, actually. I was thinking the Los Angeles Clippers.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just, maybe there's some kind of nostalgic pain I see when Brook Lopez is out there, just spacing to 27 feet, splashing threes, coming off your bench lineup. You got, aged Chris Paul, who, by the way, played 82 games last year. Chris Paul played all 82 in the regular season. That blew my mind. I had no idea about that. But he and Brook Lopez coming off the bench. Obviously, Nico Batum, one of our all-time faves out there. Kawhi, like when he was on the court last year, it seems like he's playing. I'm not going to comment on anything else, but he's playing right now. When he played last year, they looked very, very good. James Harden, we talked about being still a strong offensive player. I don't know. I just think that when you talk about depth, you talk about veteran savviness, you talk about guys that have been around the block, you talk about a coach who's just one of the best that we have in the league. I don't know. Like, obviously, a lot of it has to do with how healthy Kawhi is going to be, or if any reason for Kawhi not being able to play anymore. But at the end of the day, if they all stick together, I think they are an extraordinarily dangerous team.
Can we talk about them and the Warriors together?
Yes.
Because I think there's sort of a nursing home thing going on there where, no, I'm fascinated by it. I mean it in the best possible way. These teams, maybe their age is less of an issue in the playoffs if everyone's healthy and they have the day off between every game. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe a deep run is too hard on the body when you're at that point in time. But they are fascinating to me in that the Warriors, especially the Warriors in the regular season, I don't know. But the Warriors, that just to bring everyone up to speed, Golden State added thinking basketball legend Al Horford to the team. So they now have Al Horford, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, and Steph Curry in the starting lineup. That is almost full on thinking basketball Yahtzee for like just IQ, savvy, veteran sage wisdom, an inability to age like a normal human being. How old is Al Horford for real? How long has he been around?
Is he 40? Did he hit 40? He's got to be real close, right?
Let me think about this.
I'm going to look this up.
He was a freshman in like 2003 at Florida. Is that right? How old are you when you're a freshman? He should be around 40, 39 or 40.
Yeah, he's 39 and 140 days.
Yeah, so he's going to be 40 this season. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the way aging technology works now amongst our Homo sapiens, you can just play basketball no problem in your mid-30s, and therefore specifically the sort of big three on the team of Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green, who looked really good last year. They had a really interesting dynamic going on both ends of the court. I think when you're older like that, so much of the success of the team is about the parts that you put around them. And we kind of talked about this exact thing with Golden State from the 2021 to the 2022 championship season, when I felt like they just did not have many adults in the room in the 2021 season. And in 2022, they went out and they got Otto Porter and Nemanja Bjelica and Gary Payton II. And I'm sure I'm leaving someone out of that equation. The emergence of Jordan Poole was a big deal. And now all of a sudden, Curry and Draymond are surrounded by a completely different ecosystem. At this point in time, it's Curry and Draymond and Jimmy Butler being surrounded by yet another, an even older player in Al Horford. And then it's like, okay, but what happens after that? I look at the roster, I see Moses Moody, Brandon Pajemski, Buddy Hield. I mean, maybe literally all three of those players could be the fifth starter, but then you almost have to go beyond that because we know they're going to put Draymond at the 5 and to some degree Jimmy Butler at the 4. Jonathan Kuminga is another player in that rotation. Is that enough? Do they need a great season from DeAnthony Melton? Do they need Quentin Post to take a leap into, I don't know what Quentin Post's leap would be, but splashing even more threes? Yeah. What do you think?
I mean, this team, it's almost frustrating. Like, as a fan, I wanted to see this team 7 years ago, right? Like, I want to see this Warriors roster right now, but just de-age everyone. Like, obviously, some of the guys that are babies, like, maybe they can stay the same age. But I look at Draymond Green and Al Horford. We're even pushing Jimmy Butler to the side, who's just an all-time, like, defensive mastermind. Horford and Draymond alone are just about the highest IQ defensive 4 and 5 that I can ever remember seeing on a roster. Like, ever. And the only thing that's going to slow them down, especially Al Horford, is, again, the fact that he's going to be turning 40 soon, right? And obviously, we saw, like, great possessions. He held up really well guarding guys like LeBron and Luka. I think, was that last year?
Yeah, that was last year.
Yeah, matched up incredibly. They, like, hunted him. And he was like, great.
He's like, I'm not having it. Yes.
Come at me, everybody. It's like 38-year-old Al Horford. And now you're going to have Draymond Green also. Like, the amount of, like, pointing and yelling and switching on defense, it's going to be a masterclass in communicating on the back line. And so just in terms of just learning something by watching the game, this is going to be a must-watch team. But in terms of, like, the firepower, like, Steph Curry goes down with an injury in the playoffs, and we're not seeing Jimmy Butler against the Milwaukee Bucks dropping 50 points in the playoffs, right? Like, I'm not sure if that ramping up is there anymore. I don't know if it needs to be there if everyone's fully healthy, but if it's not there anymore, like what are the heights of this team and how can they match up against some of these like Oklahoma City, who just comes at you with so much physicality and so much force? And I just don't know. I can't quite get there to them peaking as like a championship level team, but they are just going to be a fascinating case study to watch.
They definitely strike me as more of a playoff team in the sense that they could take a matchup and in 6 or 7 games potentially turn that matchup on its head and spring an upset. They could maybe in that sense spring 2 upsets. So if you start as a favorite and you get 2 upsets, that technically gets you to the finals. But it's more of like what we saw last year where, yes, they had the good record at the end of the year and they looked promising, but you really got to see it in the postseason where, Cody, I think if you line up everything you know about the age and the rosters and the size and you said, hey, we got to go play Houston, and Houston's this big, bully, bruising team, and they're going to kill you on the glass, and they're going to find a zone that kind of keeps their double bigs on the court at all times. You would think, like, that doesn't sound good at all. And yet the Warriors won that series, and then they went into Minnesota, and they won game 1, and then that was it. We didn't get to see any more. Steph Curry didn't play, and that was it. So I don't know how many wins they can churn out in the regular season or what kind of night-to-night advantages they can create on offense and defense. Like, can they be a top 12 offense? I don't know. I really don't know. To your point about firepower, can they be a top 6 or 8 defense? I don't know, but they are going to be very fascinating. And then the Clippers in a very similar boat, right? The Clippers, the difference with the Clippers and why I wanted to start with Golden State is the Clippers feel like they have more depth. Do you buy that?
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Yes. Yeah. The Clippers, again, age aside, if you just look at the roster, these are guys that I think are really good rotation players in the NBA. James Harden, Chris Paul, Chris Dunn, Bradley Beal, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Kawhi Leonard, Derek Jones Jr. can be in that rotation, Nico Batum, Ivica Zubac, Brook Lopez, and then they're going to start John Collins. I think you can almost make the argument that John Collins is the weakest of those players. Of course, he has tremendous skill in one dimension as sort of a face-up scorer, finisher, lob threat, stuff like that. He's extended his range out to 3. That is a lot of NBA players on a roster. Of course, the average age of that roster is 58 and a half years old, approximately.
They all just have an AARP membership, like as a team. They just collectively apply
the discount. Yes, everywhere they go.
No, John Collins is like the baby of the team, and he's 27 or something like that. And the thing about John Collins, he's kind of been in hell the last few years, right? Like it didn't end well in Atlanta, and then he gets lost in like whatever was going on in Utah the last couple of seasons where we get excited and then we're not excited, and it's like, well, where does this guy fit in? I think he's almost forgotten about, right? Like I don't necessarily think even when he was with Atlanta that I was the highest on him, but I at least recognized that dude's gonna dunk all over everyone. Like I want to see some of that going on, especially playing with like James Harden, little pick and roll maestro action. Chris Paul, are you kidding me? Let's see what's going to happen there. But he can stretch the floor a little bit. I think he's like flexible defensively. I think that's going to be interesting playing next to guys like Brook and Zubac, where Collins' weakness as a defender always struck me as like drop back sort of thing, protecting the rim, like maybe weak side he could block a shot, but I never saw him as a strong rim protector. When you have Zubac and Brook Lopez next to you, like forget about it. You don't have to worry about that. You can kind of just get on the perimeter and use your size and strength to push some people around a little bit. Not that he's going to lock guys up, but I think he has some flexibility there. I don't know. I think you're right. I think the depth that this team brings is going to kind of make them a wins machine in the regular season.
So you think they have a chance to win the top seed or just finish like top 3?
Man,
regular season, just regular season only.
I think everyone outside of the conversation with like OKC and Denver to me is like who's fighting for those last 2 home court spots.
Okay.
Right. And so I see them as like a extremely viable candidate to get home court.
Can I throw something at you?
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about this before. When Kawhi Leonard has been on the court for a long time, the Clippers have been elite.
Mm-hmm.
Not like good, elite. I think even last year, I think they were like plus 12 net rating or something when he was on the court. It's in that ballpark for the minutes that he played. He's only, we go back to the aging thing. He's actually one of the young pups on the team. He's only like 34 years old, which again, in today's league, when we look at the aging curves of some of these superstars, some of the players that we just did in our summer series, if you missed it, on the best players of the 21st century, these guys at 34 years old could pump out incredible seasons. is there a sneaky like dark horse season that could possibly emerge from Kawhi Leonard if he's? I guess the health part is the first thing. If he's healthy, can he stay healthy and play like 70 games in an NBA season? Do you foresee something like this? And as I ask you, I realize we had a large philosophical debate a couple years ago about whether Zion could ever play more than 20 games. You and I were diabolically opposed to that. So now I kind of feel like, are you in the same space with Kawhi?
Do you want to guess the last time Kawhi played 70 plus games in a regular season?
Boy, is it 2016?
Close. 2017.
17? Yeah.
Actually, both those 2 seasons are the only 2 seasons where he played 70 plus games, right? I mean, 2 years ago he played 68. That's pretty close, right? Last year is back to 37, but you're right, just absolutely elite when he's on the court.
Okay, so the 68, yes, something like that is what I'm getting at.
If
If you had that as the health baseline, could we have like a Zach Lowe getting out here with like, should Kawhi be in the MVP conversation? I'm putting Kawhi on my MVP ballot. That's what I'm getting at.
I think so. I think that could happen. I think some of the on-off stuff was inflated a little bit last year. I think we actually deep dived it a little bit where they were rolling Kawhi out against some like real JV teams at times last year when he came back. So I don't think like the plus 12 probably overstates just how good the Clippers were with him. But I mean, +8, +9, you get up into that territory, you're a really strong team. And if you're playing 60 games or so, I think that's a possibility. I really do. Would I like go and bet on it? No, I wouldn't bet on anything, Ben. I'm a conflict and risk averse person. So, but I still think it's possible.
No vices for you, Cody.
Absolutely not.
Teetotaler all the way through.
I'm all the way through, man. All the way through.
Where were we?
Drew Holiday is my vice.
Okay, seriously. You've kind of talked me into this place where I wonder if that is the path for a surprise Clippers season, because as we talk about in the preview every year, there's usually a team or two that sneaks up on us. And there's usually a team or two from the sort of chalk leftover teams from last year that did well and went deep in the playoffs that just kind of falls apart. And sometimes there are obvious things that happen there, like a coaching change. Like last year, you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? Kenny Atkinson and changing the offense. So you take the same ingredients that you're cooking in the kitchen, you bring a new chef in, he makes a completely different dish. He doesn't try to make the same fried chicken sandwich. He says, no, we're doing a completely different chicken dish altogether. We're doing chicken under a brick and you're going to like it. Yeah. You've had chicken under a brick?
No, I actually haven't. That sounds wonderful.
You're missing out. Yeah. Mediterranean lifestyle. I recommend it.
I could use that right now. Mediterranean always sounds really good to me.
You see what I'm getting at?
Here's my point. I think I kept up with your metaphor here. I just started thinking about chicken and Mediterranean food midway through. But the Clippers, like when you look at the depth chart, when you see who's all on the roster, we just listed all of the guys off. It feels like a lot has to go wrong for their season to be awful. Right? Like a lot. Like they seem like they could weather a couple of injuries or a couple of stints of people being gone. Like obviously if both Harden and Kawhi are out for like 60 games, that's going to be pretty tough. But I think there's so much talent that you could roll out a bunch of different lineups and still be like, hey, Brooke, don't play for the next 3 games. And they'd still kind of be fine. Like Zubats is one of those like regular season, like rim protecting titans that's going to get out there and beat you up in the post. And, maybe they'll try and run some delay with him where not the best. He'll throw a pass or two that's nice once in a while. But I just think that this team is a pretty high floor going into the season.
I like that. I agree with that take.
Okay.
Can we stay in Los Angeles?
Yeah. Is there another team there?
Yeah. The LA Lakers, led by Luka Doncic, who, if you didn't know, was traded for Anthony Davis. Sorry, Cody. I had to slip that in on you. But Luka, Austin, let's go back to the depth idea, right? Because I think that's been key for the Lakers. Luka, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura. LeBron is yet another year older. He's going to be 41 somehow. He's in his 23rd season in the NBA. He's been battling that sciatica, which, the body starts to, at this age, the body starts to get old. It starts to do weird things. But DeAndre Ayton is new there. That gets Jackson Hayes to the bench, which I think is a better place for him than just relying on him to be your only big. Jared Vanderbilt is potentially back from injury and has been practicing 3-pointers for like 2 straight years. So maybe that'll be a viable regular season thing. We've talked about the difference between regular season shooting and playoff shooting and, 2 or 3 attempts a game and the value of that versus being a higher volume shooter. So maybe he can start to space and make some of those threes. They brought in Jake LaRavia in the rotation, Dalton Connect. So my point is, if they can get good minutes out of these players, Gabe Vincent, Marcus Smart, maybe on a resurgence tour after being really banged up for a lot of years of physical basketball that he played, is there enough there for a Luka MVP kind of season? Lean Luka, as I like to call him now. Is that, do we have the pieces around him almost regardless of how many games LeBron plays? You don't have to rely on LeBron to be a all NBA second team top 10 player for 75 games.
I'm just really not inspired when I look at the roster. I think there's a lot of nice offensive pieces. I think there's a world where this is a pretty interesting offensive team where, as you detailed, the Thing Basketball video that came out that talked about the 3-man offense involved LeBron, Luka, Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves' secondary passing was just really kind of incredible stuff. You bring in somebody like DeAndre Ayton, who I always thought for years now, just an incredible finisher at the rim, right? Maybe not somebody that goes for contact, who can go weeks without taking a free throw, but he's got really nice touch around the basket. He's got a nice short range jumper. So that gives you a nice outlet valve that way. So offensively, they should be good, but defensively, I don't know. We haven't seen a full strength Marcus Smart in a couple of years. Jared Vanderbilt has played 30-ish games for 2 straight seasons now. DeAndre Ayton isn't setting the world on fire defensively. Jackson Hayes isn't going to be somebody that's going to just set the tone as a drop big D guy. I would be kind of shocked looking at them that they're above 20th in terms of defensive rating on the season. I just don't see where it's going to come from.
What if you just read a lot of names?
I did.
What if the sum is greater than the parts here? What if coaching staff, JJ Redick, buy-in, communication, Luka Doncic, communication in the preseason defensively is the best I've ever seen from him in his career by far.
Okay.
And the activity, Marcus Smart, you got to get a team to buy in. We've done podcast episodes before detailing that coaches can have a pretty big impact by making the lineups a little more defensively oriented, one extra defensive player to make sure that everyone's buttoned up and on the same page. And you got to get your team to buy in principle-wise, philosophy, effort, and communication. I see more of that from the Lakers. It has me intrigued. And the reason it has me intrigued is exactly the number you said, Cody. You said top 20. I'm thinking top 12 defense. That something in there as a benchmark. If they can be a top 12 defense and then get that offense going with Luka, another year of growth from Austin Reeves, I think there's something very interesting there. I mean, this is a team that won 50 games a year ago, and I don't know. I'm intrigued by them once again.
I will say that I think you can draw a pretty clear line for the Grizzlies season in terms of when they got rid of Jake LaRavia. They were cooking. He's gone. Cooking's not going anymore in Memphis, Ben. Cooking's not going anymore. So I don't know. Maybe Jake LaRavia is the secret sauce here. You're absolutely right, though. There's so much that goes into coaching, that goes into having a strategy and communication and all that stuff. I don't want to be reductive about it, but again, you just look at, we spent all summer talking about great teams, great players, some of the best battles in the playoffs and stuff like that. You just don't see strong defensive rosters where you look at the roster and be like, wow, that was a bunch of average players that were able to come together and make themselves a strong defense. So maybe if they could be 12th defense, then sure, then all of a sudden I think this is a much more dangerous team. Right now, I do not see that being a outcome that I believe in at all.
I do wonder, though, if that's a sort of after the fact bias where think of the legendary 2008 Celtics and the championship team. All the prognostications did not see them being a good defensive team at all. Right?
Yeah, but they also had Kevin Garnett. There's no one that's...
Okay, yes. But one, they didn't even know about that back then. There was the dark ages. But two, more importantly, it was concerns of going down and reading names and saying, okay, cool. You've got this guy, Rondo, whatever, Ray Allen, come on, Paul Pierce. I haven't seen it lately. I'm not going to buy into it. James Posey ended up acquiring, but Eddie House, whatever. They didn't get Sam Cassell till later, but you get my point. Sometimes with defense, only after the fact do we give the credit that we need to give credit to, because the success of the team necessitates us as a community to look at a player and say, hey, we got to give that guy flowers. He was actually solid defensively. I'm not saying they're going to turn water into wine here. I'm just saying that's the intriguing part when I watch the Lakers in the preseason. And JJ Redick has talked about it. They have to try to get this team to defend. They have to get Luka Doncic to try to defend. Austin Reeves is not a great defensive piece in terms of his size and his tools. He needs to be engaged and buy in and everything. That's the challenge. And I think there's a certain benchmark with them that they have to hit. If they're 20th defensively, I don't think they can have like an offense that rips the league apart and completely makes up for that.
No, I agree. Now I'm trying to be charitable to the whole reading. And I think it all rests on Vanderbilt and it rests on Smart, right? Two guys, again, like combined have played like 50 games the last 2 seasons, like both of them, right? Like one of them played 50 in the last 2 seasons. The other played 50 the last 2 seasons. We haven't seen Smart be able to play at this level. Like maybe you can dial it up a little bit more in spots. Jared Vanderbilt, of course, is always one of our favorites in the thinkies. So maybe there's a lineup where you're like, you got Smart out there, Vanderbilt, LeBron, Ayton. You got some flexible, strong defensive guys. You got strong communication. You got people that are like really trying to buy in for everyone on the team. Maybe that is the path for it to work out. But again, I don't buy it.
Luka was traded from the Dallas Mavericks, who have a fascinating roster at this point in time. They have Anthony Davis, Derek Lively, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Cooper Flagg, basically front court players. And to get them all in the lineup, sometimes we're going to see Cooper Flagg play the 3. We're going to see Cooper Flagg maybe play the 2. I think in the preseason, he started a game at point guard, although that was just sort of ostensibly quote unquote point guard. That was just to have a player do that. He didn't really take on massive playmaking duties or shift his role a lot. They do have D'Angelo Russell, who they can start in the point guard spot, but a lot of big players, not a lot of ball handlers. Klay Thompson, Max Christie. What do you make of this team in terms of ceiling?
As a ceiling? Well, without Kyrie, is Kyrie for sure out for the season? Is he just Dunzo?
I don't think so. I think it's just the most likely outcome is that he doesn't return. But timeline wise, it's perfectly within the realm of the history of that injury to be available at least toward the very end of the regular season, I believe, if I'm getting my dates right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are some teams that I would, as a team, like mark with an X as who I don't want to play at all ever, and the Mavericks are one of them. Like
in a playoff series or in the regular season?
Just in the regular season right now. Like the type of team that's defensively huge, right? They got some flexible guys. Like Klay Thompson doesn't really have it defensively anymore, but he's still a big body out there. I don't watch college ball, Ben. Cooper Flagg's a really good basketball player.
He's really good. Yeah.
Cooper Flag is good. Really I think the thing that obviously the defense stands out. I was trying to watch him like, is this guy like peak KG threat recognition? And no, he wasn't, but he's also 18 years old. He is 18 years old, which blows my mind. The secondary passing, it's unbelievable for him. I think that's almost the skill that stood out more for me, is the way that he's able to just keep the rock moving around with all these other skilled players around him. And then next to guys like PJ Washington, Najee Marshall, that's a lot of like Max Christie, a lot of length, a lot of athleticism that's going to be coming at you. They'll be good. Like, to me, this strikes me as a playoff team, but not a home court playoff team.
Ooh. Wow. Okay. I think this is our first major disagreement.
Ooh, major disagreement.
Yeah. I
think they're competing for the chip.
No, I think they're competing for the play-in. Okay. That's what I think they're competing for. Without Kyrie Irving, I don't like how this roster fits together particularly well.
Okay.
Even though it is interesting and it is fun and it is exciting as an experiment, I don't really love how it all fits together. Now, part of that is Anthony Davis looks a little sluggish to start the year. And I am concerned it is ironic. I am concerned coming off of our summer series where we talked about ways to improve your teammate's shot quality, ways to improve or influence the whole offensive system, not just your own stats. I'm sort of concerned about that from a two-way perspective, because if you don't get the dominant defensive team that you're envisioning when you're talking about the Dallas Mavericks winning the championship, Cody, then the offense might also be a very big problem for a team like this, because who's going to pressure the defense and create offense? And they want to feature Cooper Flag from an entertainment standpoint, from a brand standpoint. They want to develop him. It makes sense if this is not a season where you're competing for a title. I mean, heck, Kyrie Irving might not play a game or a minute all season. So the combination of those things gives me a low floor for the Mavs, I think, relative to what you're talking about. I don't love the ceiling either. So I think this is our first real big fisticuffs of the 2026 season.
I'm going to really break your heart here, because I pulled up last season, and the 8 best records in the West were Oklahoma City, Houston, Lakers, Nuggets, Clippers, Wolves, Warriors, Grizzlies. Those were the top 8 seeds. Mm-hmm. Immediately after that, we go Kings, Mavericks, Suns, Blazers. Okay. So I look at those 8 teams and I'm like, do I think that the Mavericks are as good as those 8 teams that I just said? And when I run that through my head, I'm like, yeah, they're probably going to be competing for the play-in. But they feel like a solid play-in. Like, if they did not make the play-in, I would be shocked. I think there's a better chance of them being an actual playoff team versus missing the play-in entirely.
Yeah, that's probably roughly the right space for their range, I think.
Okay. Because you're right. Like, offensively, like, obviously Anthony Davis can take like a heavy load. And I think that happens more in the playoffs, where we see some of that isolation scoring, the jump shot all of a sudden gets more dialed in. But in the regular season, like, I don't know how that's going to fit as like a, the engine of a strong offense that's going to carry them. Defensively, though, I think they should be fine enough. They should be able to carry themselves. They have guys like Najee Marshall is just one of those guys that it's March 3rd. The team's trying to not, be as successful as possible. And he's out there just, 100% full bore. I think Cooper Flag's the same sort of way. So I don't know. I think defensively we'll be able to carry them, but offensively it's going to be a pretty rocky run for them.
So to recap, we've got the Nuggets and the Thunder. When we're talking about everyone staying reasonably healthy, and then also what we would reasonably expect the players to be. We just talked about multiple teams who might have players that might not be healthy, like Kawhi Leonard or whatnot, making it through the season. So Nuggets and Thunder, the floor for those teams, I think we both agree, is probably like the 3 or the 4 seed, yes. Right? They're home court. They're at the top of the conference. For you, the Clippers, are they a team that has like a 2 seed as a ceiling? Is that what you were getting at? And then the floor, I think we agreed the Clippers have a nice high floor because of that roster that they've created. So 6, 7, 8, depending on how many other teams are there. Is that about right?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
I think. Okay. The Lakers, for me, have a high ceiling as well. I think the Lakers ceiling, and it would be interesting to say what, could they be the 2 seed? Could they be the 3 seed? I don't know how much I can talk myself into, but they have a high ceiling. And then if they're healthy, LeBron plays 65 or 70 games or whatever, I think their floor is pretty good. It might not be quite as stable as the depth the Clippers provide, but those are the teams we've really gotten into. Golden State, would you put in that same ballpark, or are they a little bit lower for you?
Man, so I think they have a lower floor than the Clippers. In terms of a peak, man, I think I could see them getting like around 3-ish. I could see that.
That almost feels high to me. The regular season just concerns me with Golden State. It just concerns me. Yeah.
They were doing really well in the regular season when Butler joined them last year. Like, that's when they really started cooking. So I don't know, maybe they can continue that. I could see them finishing as a 3 seed, but again, I could see the bottom falling out and they're struggling to get that 8 seed.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then Dallas is, I think, the first. San Antonio, we forgot to include them. San Antonio, as I said, I think maybe we could get all the way up to like a 4 or 5 seed. And of course, the lower end, I would be really shocked if the Spurs were not in solid play-in game consideration at the end of the year, right? Like that. Just that 12 or 11, 12, 13 wasteland in the West. I would be shocked if they were down there, if they were healthy.
Well, how do you feel comparing them directly to the Mavericks?
I think they're better than the Mavericks. I they're a little bit higher up this board for me than the Mavericks. Yeah.
If I told you that the Spurs had home court advantage in the playoffs, how shocked would you be?
I wouldn't be that shocked. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Now, there's another team here we got to throw in before I asked you about one team that could win the West. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they've consistently,
Mhm.
I mean, back-to-back conference finals. I don't really, is there anything new with Minnesota? I'm not loving what I see from Minnesota, but also, I mean, we know they're going to be a competitive team. The big question with a team like that is, do you ever reach a point where the bottom falls out? Do you kind of just slowly move from like, yeah, they made the Western Conference Finals twice in a row, and then the third year they made the Western Conference semifinals, and then the fourth year they decided to change the team. Where are you on Minnesota? Or do you think they're going to go up?
Here's the thing. I'm going to say the same thing I said last year, which is the same thing I said the year before that, which I think is the same thing from like a decade ago. And you pull up like a Plato dialogue, like I think he was writing the same things as well. Like, what are we doing about the point guard? Like, can we please get a consistent point guard on this team? Like, when they got rid of Kyle Anderson and they got rid of Karl Anthony Towns and whomever else, and obviously Randall showed himself to be a nice passer and whatever else, and Anthony Edwards could pass the ball and stuff. They just do not have like really additive passers that are swinging the ball around and making the offense look really beautiful, right? And that starts also with not having like a consistent point guard that can just be like, all right, everyone, let's settle down. Let's get into our sets. Let's do some stuff. Obviously, that's Mike Conley's role. But again, he's in the Al Horford range, and he's like a foot shorter than Al Horford. And Al Horford's already short for a big man, right? So I don't know. That to me is just the biggest sticking point for me. And the more minutes that Anthony Edwards has to play point guard, I think that's terrible for the Timberwolves, right? And I see them, they're taking Jaden McDaniels out for a run. They're like, oh, we're going to give this guy a little bit more space in the pick and roll. He's going to be creating some more and whatever else. But it's not a strong point for him. Again, we're just trying to put creators out there that don't have that as a strength. So I basically see this as almost the exact same team as last year.
Where did they finish last year? Their seed, they're 6. I believe they were 6, right?
Was it 6? It
Yeah.
was.
I think it was 6.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 6.
I think they're in that same range again. Yeah, I think they could hit the play-in this year. Just somewhere in the, maybe San Antonio, Golden State, those teams we talked about. But I just don't love the high end for Minnesota. And obviously, if they're healthy, the low end, they're not going to be down at the bottom of the conference. But I just think they're sort of in the back of the playoff pack there.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it, too, is just how dominant is Gobert's defense throughout the regular season, because he is one of those guys that can get you some wins by just being a defense unto himself, and that is just going to continue to taper off and drop off as the years go by. I'm interested to see any development Anthony Edwards has, because he's like 23 years old. Like, it's a really young dude, so there can be an explosion somewhere that maybe we're like, wow, we didn't see that coming. This kind of makes it all work together, but maybe... I don't know. I think I see him more solidly in the playoffs than you, but probably not much more than like a 6, maybe a 5 seed.
All right, Cody and I have spent the last hour trying to see which one of us would bring up the Houston Rockets, and I'm going to finally budge and ask you, do you think the Houston Rockets can finish at the top of the Western Conference with the 1 seed?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was a very,
wow.
Yeah.
You shocked me.
You don't think that's the case?
I before the Fred VanVleet tragic injury, I think that would have been a more viable thing for me. Now, I want to tune into the preseason and see it. And when I tuned into this preseason and watched their offense, I was like, Cody, this is a gunky offense. Mm-hmm. This is a really, really gunky offense. And I think it'll get a little bit better in the sense that they'll just probably find ways to use Kevin Durant more and have more isolation with Kevin Durant. But the lack of playmaking and the lack of spacing, here's my scare meter. It's not a 10, but it's like an 8.5. Mm-hmm. Real problematic stuff on offense. And if Kevin Durant's just a couple years younger, you even feel like, well, I mean, he just by himself can, pretty much help you not have a terrible NBA offense. But man, he's old enough and the spacing is bad enough that I'm like, they're trying to get creative. They're doing double bigs and offensive rebound more and all these kinds of things. But I don't know, as we talked about over the summer in our 18.5-hour series on impact in basketball, basically, I don't know how much movement you can get on a poor shooting, poor spacing team from offensive rebounding. I don't know how much movement you can get blending Kevin Durant's sort of strengths as a player at this point in his career with like, hey, we're going to a lot of low post basketball. Let's get low post basketball. And then it's exciting. I think the wild card for a lot of people is Amen Thompson. Mm-hmm. And Amen Thompson being able to play point guard. But aging is a non-linear process. Growth is a non-linear process in basketball. And when I watch Amen Thompson right now, I don't know what else he's added. We're not seeing a jump shot. We're not seeing him space the floor. Kind of looks the same. And when you have this poor spacing to go with it, I'm pretty worried about the Rockets offense. And so even if you assume that they're going to again have a great Ime Udoka top 5 defense, I think that gets you a good regular season. Gets you a good regular season, but I don't see them being the team that is like, we're lighting the world on fire this year. That's my concern with them.
So anyone that's listening might think that I'm taking the easy way out. I think I agree with you, but what I mean, you asked me, do you think that they could be a first seed? Yeah, I think they can be a first seed. I don't see them as having that high of a playoff peak, right? Like, I don't see them being like a really viable finals contender, but I do see them having a much stronger regular season. I think their defense, like you just talked about, they're going to be huge. They're going to be flexible. They're going to be able to run out a bunch of different lineups that are just going to beat you into a pulp. Like, it kind of feels like 2016-ish OKC when they were running out like Cantor and Adams and things like that. It's just like, oh my God, what are we going to do with all of this except just like stronger defensive players? I agree with you on Thompson. Like, I really like Amen Thompson. Offensively, I feel like I'm lower on him than maybe consensus at this point, like missing some like layup type passes, not really opening up easy opportunities for his teammates off the creation. Defensively, obviously, I'm extremely excited about him. Reed Shepherd, I know he had that 29-point preseason game. That was cool. That was exciting. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not sold on him yet. I'm just really not.
I'm surprised you even went there. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I came in last year and I think I had this big thing where I'm like, I don't know. The jump shot scares me. He's jumping too high. He's going to get swatted all the time.
Can we do a 365-day update on that?
Yes.
I was watching Reed the other day and I think Cody might have been right about that. because small players don't hang in the air to try to shoot mid-range jumpers anymore. It's really out of style. They use space and a quicker release, that Steph Curry model, or they try to get downhill, they get to floater game, whatever. And by hanging in the air and shooting almost as he's coming down on the apex, combined with his size, this might not be a winning formula given all the other things that we've seen as a challenge with Reed. So I think you were onto something there. Yeah.
Thank you. I felt like I was crazy at the moment because I don't think a lot of people agreed with me, but I'm not sold on him at this point. If he's not going to be like a key point guard rotation for them, maybe you're right. Maybe there's just not enough spacing and creation going on. Now, I'm not going to say any names, but I think there might be some significant addition by subtraction going on with the Rockets this year. And I think that makes me excited a lot more to watch them. But I'm going to have my eye very close to this team because I also think Şengün, if they like really sell out to him and say, you are the hub of this offense and we're just going to make it all work that way, I think that is their avenue to having a strong offensive team.
The challenge there is Udoka has never been an offensively inclined X's and O's, like creative wizard kind of coach. But I do think obviously Şengün is set up to have a big year. He looks really good in the preseason. It's just about fit and spacing and maybe even for him, the 3-ball, because he's going to sometimes be a 4 and stretch out to the perimeter. And if he can shoot corner threes or just kind of have that balance of like my mid-range shot is better. We've talked about this with star players before. Being able to score from different parts of the basketball court and have different counters, it turns out, is kind of always the answer in basketball as you get to the higher levels. So if Şengün is a little better on that shot, mid-range, unlocks more of his drives, his hooks, his spins, and then the passing and handoff and cutter game would be awesome, but I don't know if they have the personnel or the X's and O's for it. We do have a question from our live audience on YouTube from Rom. Can the Rockets be the number 1 defense in the league this year? I think so, Cody. What do you think?
I do, but I think they have a pretty big hill to climb to make it to number 1.
Is it a thunderous hill?
It's quite the thunderous hill, Ben.
Okay.
I don't know. That's a tough peak to get over.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. So the Rockets, for me, I think for you, they have the possible sort of 1 seed. I'm hesitant about it, but I do think they'll be in a good playoff position. I don't think the floor is too low for this team. I think they're a solid, strong team. Any other sleeper teams or teams we haven't talked about that you want to mention in the West? There are The Memphis Grizzlies, Phoenix Suns, Portland Trailblazers, Sacramento Kings, Utah Jazz, New Orleans Pelicans. That's the group remaining. I will say I think Devin Booker's primed to have his highest scoring year, probably a big year for them. That could be fun from that perspective, doing just some sort of heavy lifting, crazy stuff every night. Any one of those teams you want to mention?
I mean, I see somebody in the YouTube comments saying talk about the Blazers. We're in talking about the West. Like we're not getting into the Blazers too much today. I'm sorry to break your heart.
What are you talking about? The rest of the show, the next hour is just the Blazers. We've been setting everyone up for Blazer Mania, my friend.
I think Grizzlies could be interesting. I think they could be good if they're healthy. I think there's a lot of stuff about like, oh, when you see John and Jaren were playing the last few years, they've been very good. A key part of this is if you run a lot of the lineups where Bane was with them, like he did a lot of lifting in terms of those lineups. I think if you take any combination of the three of Bane, Jaren, et cetera, all of those were solidly like above neutral. They were all like +5 or something like that. And I'm interested to see how they're able to sustain that without like the little bit of juice that Bane brought for them. I think they're a deep team. I'm a huge Pippen Jr. fan, enormous Pippen Jr. fan. I want to see Santi Aldama playing more. I think I drafted him in our 25 under 25 and the world like immediately just combusted. I don't know. I think this team could be very interesting, but I think they also have a lower floor.
I haven't fully recovered from that Santi Aldama draft. The Portland Trailblazers. Oh, sorry. The Memphis Grizzlies, before we move off the Memphis Grizzlies, I have to say this for the record. I don't think I saw them play a preseason game. So I'm just pleading ignorance on the Grizzlies right now. I have no idea how it's going to look. I don't really have very high expectations, but for the record, I don't know. I don't have much to say. I guess we'll circle back and see how it is in a week or two. If I had to pick a team from that group, Cody, to make the play, and it would obviously be my Portland Trailblazers with Drew Holiday now joining the club. They're going to have problems. Maybe half-court offense is going to be very dicey for them. Yeah, but I think they could be. I think they could be a good defensive team, and maybe by January they can figure out how to score.
It's going to be a rough offensive season for them. And Billups hasn't struck me yet as being an X's and O's guys. It's going to come out with some like really high level stuff. Defensively, I think they're going to be really fun to watch, right? Like that, Tumani Kamara. I almost screwed up that name. We're warming up, everyone. But like they have some fun, interesting defensive pieces. Denny Avdia really came in the last few like weeks of the year last year. But again, the offense I think is going to be pretty putrid.
Eastern Conference time.
Mm-hmm.
I still think the Cleveland Cavaliers are set up to finish with the best record in the Eastern Conference. There might be some contenders. I believe you have your tiers here, right? You've got this conference organized in front of you on your paper. Are there other teams that you think can finish with the best record in the Eastern Conference?
Wait, who did you say?
I said the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you made a judgmental face. It's okay.
No, I made a face. You know those things where somebody says something important and you forgot it and you're like, maybe if I focus really hard, I can like tap into something and catch it again. I think you could toss the Knicks in that tier. I think they have a chance to be number one.
The New York Knickerbockers.
The New York Knickerbockers. Absolutely.
We have our second big disagreement, and I love it.
You don't think the Knicks have a case to be number one in the East?
I'm very concerned about the New York Knicks. I don't want to start the year with a therapy session, but I'm very concerned about the New York Knicks.
I'm going to sit up straight.
Mike Brown has come in and he's revamped this offense. Okay. And he's essentially brought in a lot of the characteristics of the Sacramento Kings offense that we covered for the last couple of years. Sabonis at the high post and the way they're cutting and flowing into the lane and 3-man actions and looping back around and things like that. And it does not seem to fit the personnel to me. And I am very, very worried about where that goes in the next couple months.
Don't you think that if it doesn't work super well, they're running the offense and like, this isn't great, you can just be like, scrap it. Iverson cut, Brunson coming off a pin down, get the handoff, go to town with pick and rolls. Like you can just fall back to that offense. So I think like there's always a safety valve if it doesn't work out like you want.
So you're suggesting that like at some point early in the season, there's going to be a big athletic feature on how they've scrapped the experimental offense to try to get back to 500 after starting the year 6-13 or something.
You watch right now. Here's my boldest prediction. My boldest prediction of the season. at some point in like February, there's going to be an article somewhere, and there's going to be a chart that looks at the number of pick and rolls per 100 possessions that Jalen Brunson runs, and it's going to go steadily up. I promise you that article is going to be written in a couple of months.
Isn't that you saying that this offensive experiment isn't going to work and we're going to have problems?
But the point is that works really well. Like the Brunson ball, like we talked about, being a super high load player and just kind of doing his thing. Karl Anthony Towns is a, he's straight line scorer, not going to do a lot of creating himself, but when he's put in the position to score and create, can do some stuff from there. Mikal Bridges is like, great, sign me up for some open threes. That sounds good. OG, if he stays healthy, like he's going to hit some threes. I thought he looked great in the playoffs. I'm just naming names again.
That's what, again, it's naming names. And if you actually put the Knicks on, they're like, Mitchell Robinson, go play like Nikola Jokic. That's what's happening right now.
Well, once upon a time, a few years ago, I literally made a video that was Mitchell Robinson might be the worst passer in the NBA. And it was like, I don't think I've seen this guy make a chest pass in months. So that's not a winning formula for them. I do think running the double bigs of Cat and Mitchell Robinson together takes away the biggest strength that Cat has as a big man, which is when you put his shooting and driving ability at the 5, it completely throws like the other team's defense into flux. You're like, what are we supposed to do to guard this thing? Because if you throw a smaller guy on him, he posts you up. You throw a bigger guy on him, he stretches you out and drives to the basket. At the 4, all of a sudden you have a 4 guy on defense who might even be worse defensively at that position. And then offensively, it's like, yeah, there's a bunch of 4s that stretch the floor like this. So I don't necessarily like that pairing too much.
I'm in a bold mood
for
2026. So I'm just going to say I don't think the Knicks have their high end is not the number 1 seed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Here's the follow-up then. Is there any other East team that has number 1 seed potential?
The Orlando Magic.
Here we are.
Why not? Why not the Orlando Magic? Yes.
Not?
Yes. Why not the Orlando Magic? Their best player and future All-Star Franz Wagner looks absolutely fantastic. Desmond Bane is exactly what they need for spacing. You want to talk about the defensive chops? They got defensive chops all over the court, up and down every lineup. And if they could just squeeze a little bit more shooting out of not just Bane by addition, but Jalen Suggs can shoot the ball sometimes, and maybe one other player. I mean, it could be enough there to get, I don't know what it takes, 55 wins or something like that.
Okay. So here's the thing. Let me pull up some stats here. I'm going to sit here for a second. So here's an offense, right? You look at the Magic last year, and their offense was 2 points per 100 possessions worse than league average last year, right? No, wait, Ben, that's when Franz and Banchero shared the court together. When their 2 best players were on the court together, their offense was 2 points worse than league average. And then
excuse me, Suggs and Wagner. Look, what were their numbers when they were on the court?
When Paolo was on without Franz, it was 7 points worse than league average offensively.
He's going to be a little better.
Okay. So I know Bane is there. I'm a big believer in Bane. I think that is the path forward to their offense looking better. But we have a pretty, solid sample at this point of this offense being very putrid. Franz Wagner shot like 29% at Eurobasket.
Exactly. He can get that up into the low 30s, no problem.
Here's my take. We need to stop believing in Franz Wagner, the shooter. We get it out of our head. It's not going to be there. He's been like 29% the last 2 regular seasons. In the playoffs, the same thing happens. Don't you dare pull up the preseason numbers, because at one point it was like 20% and it got up to 37% or something like that. I was ready for that one. I'm out. It's done. It's not going to be there. Franz Wagner's not a shooter, and that's okay. He's a wizard at getting to the basket. He's so long. He creates so many opportunities there. But in terms of like, when he can start getting that jumper back when the hitch is gone, it's not. Just deal with it. This is the Franz Wagner we have, and that's ultimately what the Magic have to live with.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the next team? I have no response to that. It's too good.
Let me end with this statement. If the Magic are in the finals, I wouldn't be that surprised.
I love the second hour of the preview, everyone. I believe that 2 teams in the East will be much better than everyone thinks they will be. Of course, as I say that, I have to make my annual announcement that I have not looked at a single preview or prognostication for the purposes of doing this podcast from my own perspective, and I have no idea what the betting lines are. So maybe it's exactly in line with what Las Vegas thinks. But I think both the Boston Celtics And the Indiana Pacers will be way, way better than everyone thinks, despite not having their 2-star players.
Way better.
The Boston Celtics, Cody. Let's start with the Boston Celtics, okay?
Please, let's
now I do understand that we're talking about Drew Holiday, Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis. So I'm not trying to say that the Celtics are going to be the number 1 seed and finish with this record. But it is important to remember in the last 3 seasons, when Jason Tatum is on the court, they've outscored teams by about 10 points per 100 possessions. When Jason Tatum has been on the bench, they have outscored teams by 8 points per 100 possessions in 4,000 minutes without Jason Tatum. I'm just saying, this team, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, could Derek White get into some all-star conversations by December or January? Who's writing that article on the Ringer? I'm looking. How about that as a bold prediction? We're going to get a Ringer. Derek White should be an all-star article this year. They want to play fast. They want to play. They defensively are also very interesting. I think the lack of the big men is going to hurt their offense in terms of being really punchy, but I think they'll be punchy because I think they'll get some offense, they'll get some little thing stuff, and then defensively, they could be very good. In the preseason, they had one of the best looking defensive structures, philosophies, and shells that I saw from any team in the preseason. And I think in the East, Cody, it's there to take people by surprise. I don't know what the win total is for that. You know, it's not like 60 wins, but I don't know. I think they're going to be much better than people think if you're throwing them away because Tatum is injured. I
am interested in seeing Biceps Brown like take it to them and see what he's able to do as like the guy on the team.
We're being told by the live audience right now that there was a prediction on the Ringer today that Derek White will be an all-star. So I'm done. I got my one prediction, my hot take out of the way.
Let's go to Derek White. He looked really good, right, in the preseason. Like, there were a couple plays. I think I sent one to the Thinking Basketball Intelligentsia that had to do with this great defensive stand that the Celtics had. And a big part of it was White ended up on the big. I don't even remember who they were playing, but he's kind of fronting the big. He gets shoved out of the way. There's kind of an off-ball switch. They come down, on the other hand, after this great defensive stand. He hits a 3 in the corner. The play right before that, he hits a pull-up 3. The play after the whole sequence, he draws a charge. I mean, Derek White's going to be on full display. And he is a absolute certified knockdown shooter. And I think with the guard play that they have, you talked about the weakness of the bigs. I think they have some really interesting depth for guards and wings, right? Like, they have some guys that can move the ball and space the floor and stuff. And you're going to have to be really dialed in if you're a defense going against them, because they can attack you from a lot of different ways.
So it looks like Peyton Pritchard might start. I think Peyton Pritchard could have a huge year. He shoots. He fights defensively, and he absolutely shoots the leather off the ball. So there's some interesting spacing components despite not having the stretch big anymore. So they're going to try. Now, Chris Boucher is technically a stretch big, but they're going to have this weird revolving door of like Keita, Luka Garza, Chris Boucher, Xavier Tillman, and then you get the other guys that Cody's talking about, where Sam Hauser and Jaylen Brown, if those are your forwards. There's just some really interesting combinations they put out there. So I think they're going to be an above 500, possibly good, like legitimately good team that doesn't have that upper echelon to them without Jason Tatum and with some of the pieces that they've lost over the last few years. And then the Pacers, just very well coached, the style of play, get ready for rookie Nembhard to take yet another step forward, being given the keys in primacy. And then you're going to get the two-way, feisty, full court, man D, punchy scoring, crazy three-point. Why did they hit 7 in a row barrage of Aaron Nesmith and Ben Mathurin? Aaron Nesmith and Ben Mathurin are 55 good games away from needing a nickname as a wing tandem. That's where I'm going with the Pacers. So yeah, I think those two teams are going to surprise people.
There was a great Gym Corner segment with Zach Lowe. He was interviewing Aaron Nesmith.
Zach Lowe is doing our Gym Corner bit now?
Yeah, he didn't stop and emphasize this, right? I'm taking this. I'm stealing some of his content and bringing it over here like a great content creator does. And something that he was talking about with Nesmith is like, oh, what did you see in like, how were you run in training camp and whatever else? And Nesmith brings up this beep test, which basically had to do with doing some sprints. There was a beep involved. You had to make it to the other end before the beep happened. I didn't quite catch the whole thing. But the point was you were eliminated if you didn't beat the beeps, basically. And so guys are just like going off the court and whoever else. And Zach asks, is like, hey, so who won the beep test? And it turns out that Quentin Jackson and TJ McConnell actually went far enough that they had to call it. The coaching staff had to end the drill because McConnell and Jackson were just like consistently beating it. And if that's not the greatest like cardio story you've heard, if your coaching staff goes is like, we need to end this because you two are actually just too good for our cardio drill, that's incredible. So that's the gym story of the year so far.
Wow, there's enough beeps in there that I was having Spaceballs flashbacks to the radar sweeping scene. Do you think Jaylen Brown will have a kind of monster breakout year? Is he going to average 28 points a game and get credit for improving his playmaking and all that stuff? Or is it really about the other Celtics as we talk about this?
I think it's more about the Celtics.
Agreed.
I think Jaylen Brown will look good, but it's about the other guys.
Yep. Agreed. Okay. I'm going to continue to throw you bones. Do you think the Detroit Pistons or the Atlanta Hawks could win the East?
So let's talk about the Pistons for a second, because they took your favorite Knicks to a very well-contested series last year. Let's just say it that way. There's a couple of things that could have gone different ways, and that series could have ended completely differently. Cade looks great. I think I sent you a pass yesterday that you threw him like, this is the most Jason Kidd pass I've seen. It was sick. Like, Cade is awesome, and I'm really excited to see that development. But the rest of the roster doesn't really inspire me, right? Like, Durant out there, like, he looks like a man. He's going to keep adding to his game. He's a strong dude. You don't want to go against him. Thompson, of course, like, I know people are really excited about him as like a most improved player candidate, but again, offensively, it's the same thing with a men where I'm like, not seeing crazy development on that end where I'm going to get too excited about it. So I just think like it's the opposite of the Celtics, right? Like, Cade is a very good player, but I don't think the supporting cast is enough to really get them into an upper echelon for the East.
You don't like the Duncan Robinson addition, or you think it's kind of, we lose one shooter in Beasley and we bring another, that kind of thing? It's just kind of trading equal parts.
I think the years of like 44% Duncan Robinson shooting are years behind us. Like that's like 2021.
You're on
2020.
fire today.
I'm just saying, like, we haven't seen Duncan Robinson like light the world on fire with the shooting for a few years now. So I don't necessarily think that moves the needle too much.
And the Hawks, I'm out of teams after that. There's no more candidates I have in the East for you. This is why I said it's Cleveland, and then I don't know what to do.
So the Hawks, I like Trae Young. He's a good offensive player.
Mm-hmm.
They have a solid base around them.
Mm-hmm.
Here is number 2 bold thing that I'm going to say.
No, this is we haven't forgotten. This is like the 7th bold thing that you're going to say. You had a 3-minute rant about how Franz Wagner will never be able to shoot the ball despite being an 87% free throw shooter. Continue.
This is the first controversial thing I've ever said. By the way, Yao Ming shot like 90% from the line, and I don't know what his 3-point numbers looked like.
Did Yao Ming really shoot 90% from the line?
I thought in 2009 he shot 89%.
Over
he was like an 87 consistently.
80 free throw attempts or something?
I don't know what the numbers are, but they're up there. Somebody fact check me. Yao's like a 90% free throw shooter.
Let's hear this. You've been waiting to queue up something controversial the entire show. Let's get it done.
By the end of the season, Jalen Johnson will be known as the best player on the Hawks.
Boy. Mm-hmm. I want to say that's controversial, but in my brain, I'm like, that makes sense, Cody.
Hey,
yeah.
Okay.
I could definitely see that. Yao Ming was a career 83% free throw shooter.
What about the last couple seasons? Look at those numbers.
Well, 80, 85, 86, 85, 87.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are the 3-point numbers?
Yeah, we know. Yeah, Yao Ming was not allowed to shoot threes. We know that. He was not allowed to shoot threes. He was not allowed to wander from the paint back in the old days. But he did shoot 43% between 10 and 16 feet. He also has a completely different set of shot mechanics than Franz Wagner.
Anyway.
So yeah,
Jalen Johnson.
So you're not believing in the Hawks?
No, I think they're interesting. I actually think they're probably right in the same area as the Orlando Magic, wherever you might end up with them. But I still think, like, in my mind, the Knicks and Cavaliers are still a tier above somebody like the Hawks.
Yes, I keep forgetting that you have the Knicks up there in that tier, not the Magic, because of the Franz Wagner shooting woes and the theories behind that. Charlotte Hornets, they're fantastic.
Wait, what do you have to say about the Hawks?
Oh, the Hawks. Sorry, I'm blacking out at this point in the show. I think I like them. I
Yeah.
like the Hawks. Now, do I feel like I have a really good idea of, Kristaps Porzingis is going to play 72 games and Trae Young's going to look awesome, and this is how Jalen Johnson's going to come back and fit in, and Zachary Risachet and any other young players are going to work there. I mean, they added Nickeil Alexander-Walker. That's another really nice piece for a team like this. Luke Kennard is there as a spacer and sort of a different look from the guard position. I think they're going to be probably one of the better teams in the East. Yeah. But does that give them the juice to win like 55 or 56 games? I probably don't think so. It feels like I'm shortchanging myself and the basketball community, but I just have a hard time seeing a lot of teams in the East that could really have a monster win total at the end of the year.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I do think the Hawks have some really fun flexibility that make them a tough matchup for, basically any team in the league, right? Like they're not beholden to just one play style. Maybe offensively, like when Trae's out there, obviously there's going to be a lot of Trae ball going. But when you have guys like Dyson Daniels, Risachet, Jalen Johnson, Onyeka Okongwu, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, like you can do a lot of fun stuff there. You can run a lot of defensive schemes. You have a lot of interesting offensive talent that's, maybe Johnson and Trae are going to be taking the bulk of that load, but everyone else, like I'm expecting some jumps from Risachet. I really believed him in last year. I really enjoyed watching him. And I think each year that he comes in, he's going to be bringing some more stuff to the table. We're like, wow, pretty soon, this is going to be a pretty put together player. But like you just said, I do not see them being like a 55 plus win team. But in the East, like to compete for like a 3 seed, like I don't think you have to win 55 wins. Like, I don't know what that win total is going to be, but they're ultimately going to be right there by the end of the season.
For the 4th consecutive year, I think the only other team that could possibly even be in this conversation would be the Philadelphia 76ers if the Magic health fairy comes down and waves some sort of wand over the entire team. And I don't really see that happening. I think Joel Embiid looked pretty good in his preseason minutes, or did he play one game? I don't remember how many it was at this point. That's all in the past. It's been way too long. Paul George, I mean, the health and the age and all kinds of problems there. Embiid says he's not going to play back-to-backs probably for the entire year. So I don't know what to make of that team in this conversation, but that could be like the only other team that I could even maybe see having an angle. Your Milwaukee Bucks, I think, will win more games than people think just because of Giannis and some shooters around them, right? Yes, you're going to make the case for the Milwaukee Bucks as the 1 seed. Go ahead.
Weren't the Bucks like a 4 seed last year?
They were, whatever they were is a lie. That's all I'm saying. When they say the statistics lie, that's what they're talking about.
Ben, the Bucks, they have a chance to win 50 games this year.
I do. I think they do.
Yeah.
I think they do have a chance to win 50 games.
I know. The Bucks might be like a 52 win team. And yet, like, here's the best defense of the Bucks right here. I'm going to get into like in my bag Homer announcer kind of mode. I mean, like, look at the Bucks. I mean, you have Giannis, you have Kevin Porter Jr.
Where's the accent?
Gary Trent Jr.
You need the Milwaukee accent if you're going to do this.
You got Kyle Kuzma, you got Miles Turner, you got Cole Anthony, you got AJ Green, you got Taurean Prince, you got Bobby Portis. That's 50 wins right there, Ben. I think the Bucks, here's the thing. The Bucks are just a read the names team and people get kind of excited about them. I do think they win like 50 wins, right? They will win 50 games, but I just don't think they have the juice to contend for a finals run. They've won what? They've won like 4 playoff games in the last 3 years?
Yeah.
4 playoff games.
No,
in the last 3 years.
We're focusing on the regular season here. And you can read all the names you want. I think what's key there is they have shooters around Giannis. And AJ Green, of course, and Gary Trent are really good shooters, and Miles Turner kind of coming in for that Brook Lopez replacement position. And honestly, I kind of like Miles maybe a little bit better at this point in time. So yeah, I think to me, if Giannis is healthy, that's a high floor team in the East relative to what we're talking about. And the ceiling is not too high either. But yeah, I think they could win 48, 50 games and get Giannis back in the good old MVP conversation.
I genuinely like Cole Anthony. I think I actually said, I don't remember if it was last year or 2 years ago, but I think I'm on here saying that Cole Anthony should get out of Orlando because it's just like there's too much going on at that position there and he's not going to get any space. So I'm really happy he's there, and I think he's going to show out a bit, and people are going to be like, "Oh, Cole Anthony, this is pretty fun."
Is there, Cody, an MVP prediction for you before we get out of here?
Oh wow, Jokic, pretty good.
In the one in Denver,
I think Jokic. I think Shea. I think Victor Wembanyama.
Stop it. Hold on. You had the Knicks possibly winning the Eastern Conference and no Jalen Brunson MVP flowers.
Oh, he'll be like 5 or something like that.
What?
Yeah.
If the Knicks win the East, he'll be 5?
Yeah.
Have you ever been to New York?
Have you seen the Eastern Conference?
I think the marketing machine will be in full support, full throating the idea of Jalen Brunson if that happens. Of course, I don't think it's going to happen. So
there's someone in our comments right now saying that they want a lot of Kalkbrenner talk. Listen,
who's Kalkbrenner?
Rookie, like this is a rookie. We don't talk rookies unless they're like the number 1 pick until like 3 months from now.
I love this moment in time where someone can say a basketball player's name that I don't know before, I'm like going to sleep and dreaming about what he needs to do with his left foot fadeaway on the right block post up. MVP, yes, probably Nikola Jokic. MVP is a pretty good pick. Any other things you want to get off? Any surprises? Any coaching, surprise coach of the year from Cody? Any other bold hot takes that you have not mentioned? We started the show with the French Revolution, Victor Wembanyama. We've come full circle. Vic to me could be the MVP of the league. I think that would be another. And Luka, I think those guys, those are probably the betting favorites. I just sound like a sports website. I got to stop it.
I mean, at the end of the day, like you pick the players that make the most sense. Let me end with this question. So it's been 7 straight years with a different champ, right? 7 straight years with no repeat champs. Okay. So if you had to pick a team, if I said that one of those 7 is not going to win again, which means no Raptors, Lakers, Bucks, Warriors, Nuggets, Celtics, or Thunder, who has the best chance to win the championship?
Wow. So you don't just mean no repeat for the 7th straight year. You mean an 8th new team.
Yes.
In this time period.
Yep. Who's going to be the 8th team?
To support us, patreon.com/thinkinbasketball. That is the best way to support this podcast directly. We're going to have our member videos kicking off once the season starts. Very excited about that. Our great game series along with extras and maybe behind the scenes things. We got content that's coming on the season now that the season has started. And as most of you listen to this, the season will have already kicked off with opening night. We're on Peacock, NBC this year, Amazon, streaming all over the place. It's very exciting. ESPN covering games, ABC. I'm just stalling to not answer Cody's question in case you can't tell, because that is a doozy. Which of those teams? I mean, Cleveland is the answer, right? How did we make it the whole show and not talk about Lonzo Ball? This is an unbelievable tragedy. Lonzo Ball looks great. He's a great story. He's one of the great stories in the league this year. He might kind of be exactly what Cleveland needs. I'm still not convinced when you get deep in the playoffs, the hourglass formation of the 2 bigs and the 2 smalls, and the 2 bigs can't shoot threes. Like, I'm still not convinced it's going to work, but Cleveland wasn't healthy. Darius Garland's awesome. Maybe Mitchell and Garland are enough. Maybe Lonzo Ball and Hunter and the right Max Strus and just the right combination of healthy players. That gets you through the East. That gets you to the finals. And then if you have the right finals matchup, Cleveland would be a new champion in that last 8-year window, right?
Yeah, I really believe in this Cavaliers team, which is funny because I think at the preseason last year, I was like, blow it all up. We're done with this Cavs team. But I don't know. I think we saw some great development from Mobley last year. I'm not expecting the 3-point shot to ever like warp the opposing defenses, but his creation burden, it seemed like the Cavs were doing a good job of just having different people bring the ball up like every other possession. No, I think that's going to be an extremely dangerous team.
But that has to be the answer, right? I mean, what, the Clippers?
Yeah, I was going to say the Clippers might be in my number 2.
Okay. Not the Portland Trailblazers.
No, not the Portland Trailblazers.
How do we, another thing, it's really a rookie tax that we're paying. Somehow we made it through the whole show and did not talk about Young Hansen. You just wait. We're going to have a lot of Young talk later in the year. I also love, at this point in the show, someone in the live audience has asked us if we could do our league pass rankings. My friend, that is like a 2-hour podcast. That is a very, very long show. Cody, any final thoughts before we get out of here and kick off the 2026 NBA season?
Let's play some basketball, Ben.
Let's do it. Thanks so much for listening to this one all the way through. We look forward to a great year. And of course, we hope you are having a great day.